Testing, anybody online? Can y'all hear us? Maybe now. Chat messages are coming up. There we go.
Thank you.
There, come through.
Okay, we have done introductions for you online attendees. We've done introductions in person here. We would like, for those of you that are online that would like to introduce yourselves, this is your opportunity.
I'll hop in. This is Chris Rolling with Olson. Thanks.
Morning, everyone. Greg Ewell with FHU.
Sam Hooper. Oh, sorry about that.
Joan Green, ENA.
Sam Hooper, Greater Omaha Chamber.
Is there anyone else online that would like to introduce themselves?
Great Prairie City of Gretna.
Okay, last call for online. All right, hearing none, we're good. We have a quorum today. And we're gonna get into our action items. So we'll start off with approval of minutes from last month's meeting, July 18th. Any questions on those meeting minutes that were sent out and were available at this meeting for review? Seeing no hands, is there a motion for approval or denial?
No move.
Second. Okay, got a motion and a second. All those in favor of approval, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. All right. Second item is Heartland 2050 mini grant committee representatives. And that is a MAPA.
I'll take it. Yeah. So staff's been thinking about what we want to do for a call for projects for the regional funding sources. We definitely want to do a call for projects for mini grants, which is why we wanted to form the mini grant committee. We also wanted to let you know that a lot of the programs are still pretty full, SDBG, TAP, and CRP. We're also coming up on the last year of the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act. So we're kind of, waiting to see what's going to happen with future years of funding. So we don't really want to do a full call for projects for the other programs. Like I said, we don't have huge balances in any of them, and we're not really sure what's going to happen with the future of all of those programs. So what we would like to do is do a call for if any existing programs or projects in the programs need additional funding. We do want to kind of open it up for that, but we didn't do a call last year except for on the Iowa side of the river. But that's kind of what we're thinking, just so everybody's aware that we usually allow applicants to ask for it, like if you need additional funding for a project, come back to go through the pros-con TAPC process to enable that sort of thing. And if we continue to not have any kind of call, it makes it difficult to be able to come back and reevaluate some of those things. So we do want to kind of open that up. And then we also would like to talk, if anybody has ideas for submitting for community project funding, basically earmarks or discretionary applications. I'd like to talk about some of that stuff too. So I think we do want to have some conversations with PROSCOM and TAPC. But as of right now, what we would like to do is get a couple of members from TTAC to volunteer to serve on the mini grant committee. So we need 2 members of TTAC, and then next month we'll get 2 members from RPAC, and then we'll put that working committee together.
Do you want people nominated or people to raise their hand, or do you not care?
Well, ultimately, I guess it could go either way. I don't know that we would force anybody to serve who didn't want to serve, but I would say if you want to nominate folks, go for it. We will have TTAC take a vote approving whoever volunteers or is nominated.
Okay, I have a question. Does MAPA have a list of those projects? I don't, off the top of my head, know which mini grant projects are out there right now that might be eligible for additional funding or need additional.
Oh, okay. Yeah, sorry, I didn't mean, I probably kind of confused the issue there. For the mini grant program, we are intending, this would be a full call for projects for that, because it would just be for planning studies, and the amount it's less than $1 million. So it's it doesn't really impact the program that significantly and the funding is there. So for the mini grant program, that would be a full call for projects for any of those kinds of plans and studies that would be done under that. But then in addition to that, just kind of as a note, just so that everybody's aware of kind of what we're thinking, for broader STBG, TAP and CRP, we're saying that that would be kind of a just in case you need some gap funding on an already selected project kind of call. So the appointment to the mini grant committee is kind of disconnected from all of that. That would still be through the standard PROSCOM TAP C process.
Okay.
Yeah, and to put a finer point, I think we have our internal thresholds, right? Like if the project exceeds 20% of the original budgeted amount, we have to do a formal amendment to the TIP. We're kind of opening this opportunity up for existing projects that are currently listed in the TIP, right? They could be 2028, 29, whatever, things change. We understand that. And so this is an opportunity to fix and correct those changes now before they become an emergency. And then two, allow us to get a better picture of how much funding we have available as we anticipate the IIJA to sunset in the next year. Does that help? Any additional questions, comments, concerns?
Yeah, that helps.
Okay,
Just for clarification, the grants, individual projects under $1 million or total grant for all mini projects for the selections?
So we set aside 250,000 in Nebraska and 100 and something thousand on the Iowa side for mini grant projects. So yeah, the whole amount is less than. Now, there has been, I don't know, maybe 1 or 2 years where we've gone a little bit over that, but I've never seen it go over $1 million. So yeah, the whole pool is less than $1 million bucks.
What were the kind of high level requirements for those or type of projects that would satisfy that?
For the most part, what we've usually seen in applications has been requests to do various studies throughout the region, and generally they just need to align with the goals of Project 2050. And in the application, kind of it goes through what all the requirements are. It's a fairly light list of kind of what we're looking for, but for the most part, we're basically just trying to open it up so that communities can do some additional planning work to get towards being able to then put in another kind of application to STBG or TAP for an actual construction project.
So examples, recent examples include the neighborhood enhancement and trails need. Looking at connections between existing trails and local community requests for additional trail connections. The city of La Vista did their bike ped plan, the city of Omaha bike ped, no, not the city of Omaha. RESAP, which was the Western
Circuit Transportation Enhancement Plan.
and looking at ultimate right of ways, right? So think of it as planning and concept level work. Additional examples of things that we're interested in or can be used with this is if you do not have an ADA transition plan for your community, we could use these funds to start that process, right? Most of the ADA transition plans communities have are either court mandated or just don't exist. And so we could use these funds to start that process for you so that you have a list of your ADA deficiencies that you could start selecting and putting into existing projects and demonstrate that you are meeting that ADA criteria on public right of way. So things like that. If you have more questions, my staff, super happy to talk to you about this. If you have an idea, super happy to talk to you about this. Bring it up and we'll try to see how we can fund it. And if these mini grant funds are not the correct fit, let us look at it. We might be able to find something else that might work. I know the city of Omaha uses CMAQ from the state. So we don't have a direct allocation to our region, but we can make requests to the state for additional congestion mitigation and air quality concerns. And some of that work includes signal upgrades, right? The mini grant would also be eligible for doing a signal plan for your community. So we can get creative, just come talk to us, happy to figure things out.
I'm sorry.
Oh, I was just gonna volunteer.
I have a quick question, or you said 2 from TTAC and 2 from ARP, did you say RPAC?
Yes,
So paint me the picture of the RPAC committee members, are they going to represent what? Transit, parks, what does RPAC? I mean, what I'm trying to get to is for somewhat maybe different backgrounds of the 4 people that we're gonna have. So maybe a planner, an engineer, a transit person, and whoever. Can you help with that?
so yeah, our pack is pretty mixed. I would say that as far as, it's definitely more planning heavy, as opposed to TTAC being more engineering, public works heavy. But then there's also, folks that are in economic development and finance and nonprofits and that sort of work. So I would say generally more planning heavy than what TTAC is.
Okay.
Can you remind us of the timeline of the call for projects and then also the anticipated scope of work for the committee members related to the timeline and what they will be doing?
So normally we would have a call for projects that would open at the end of October and run through about the beginning to middle of January. We might push that if we're not doing a full call for projects, like we might release it a little bit later. It will, but generally it'll be kind of late fall into early winter is when we'll be bringing in the applications. The work for the mini grant committee would be, we'll probably have a meeting, we'll probably try to squeeze something in October, November. So 1 meeting in the fall and then probably 1 meeting in the spring to review the application. So basically what we'll be doing in the fall is setting the application up, which I don't really anticipate a whole lot of changes to it. So it'll probably just be reviewing what we've got right now. If we want to make some tweaks, we can do that. That's the point of having the committee. And then in the springtime, after we get the applications in, we'll basically take a look at them and decide, if they all seem to fit with the program and whether we want to recommend funding, and then that'll ultimately come through TTAC go to the board, just like any other project would. So what we're basically asking for 2, maybe 3 meetings over the course of the next 9-ish months.
Sounds good. So I think Christie volunteered.
Yep.
So we have one. Is there another volunteer in the audience?
I support Christine. Thank you for volunteering. That's great. And understanding staff availability, we want diversity. So a planner, I would make a motion to approve Christie and then also Mark, who I believe has time available to meet the needs of the committee as well. So a motion to have Christie and Mark as the 2 members from TTAC for the committee.
There's someone else that wants to throw their hat in the ring, or is there a second for that motion? We have a motion on the floor.
Second that.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. All those in favor of that motion, say aye. Aye. Any opposition, same sign? All right, sounds like you got your volunteer.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christian and Mark. We are on to item number 3, which is amendment 1. I think are we done with that then, Court? Was that
Yeah,
it?
that's it. Yeah, unless anybody had any questions about progress or anything like that.
Very good. Okay, then we're on to item 3 in our action item list, and that is amendment 1 to the 2026 Unified Planning Work Program.
So we saw this back in May, we approved the final. A month into our fiscal year, we had this change. We've been signaling that we did receive this TRIPS funding. That was the 100% for that project prioritization pilot program. So it's gonna constitute $2 million at 100% for several years in our UPWP. In order to receive the funds and obligate those funds, we have to go through an amendment process. And so a lot of this stuff is pretty much cleanup work, right? One, we're adding 600,000 of TRIPS funding to our UPWP, about increasing our total federal amount. 2, we're doing de-obligation work, so matching up what we actually spent in Q4 of 2025 with what was projected in the original budget, de-obligating and re-obligating it as carryover for 26, so that we have instant access to those funds. And then last but not least, addressing a comment from FTA regarding our 5310 program work. On our original UPWP, we had a column that stated our intent and how we were expecting to use our 5310 funding. What this does, or the impact this has to our work program, is it increases the total number of contracts, right? The contract cost. And so that's gonna shift some of the funding overall. So this table shows the ultimate request of federal funds for fiscal year 26. It's a change of about $634,342. Next slide, we could get a little bit more details on direct labor, indirect, etc. Overall, the biggest changes you'll note are in the contracts and subrecipient. We went from 2.6 million to 2.3. Again, this is an effect of removing that 5310 contracted work. Our direct labor went up. Fringe and indirect cost also went up with the new amounts. But overall, our total budget went from 5.3 to 5.7. That is pretty much it. This is again an administrative task that we have to do in order to be able to receive the obligation from FHWA or USDOT for the TRIPS program. Next slide is just questions, comments?
Do you have anything else on that, or are we voting to approve that today?
We're voting for a recommendation to do the MAPA board for approval.
Okay, I would recommend approval to the MAP board. Is there a second?
Second.
We have a second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed, same sign. Right, our last action item is item number, and open to a public comment period for the MTP, the Metropolitan Transportation Plan.
Yeah. So we are getting close to wrapping up the Metropolitan Transportation Plan. We have a pretty much final project list. We've got the impact right at a little over $6 billion through 2050. The project list was included in the draft that went out. There's a few of the appendices still need to be finalized. We're still working on finishing the travel demand model. So once we get that done, we'll be able to check all those other boxes and get all of that data plugged into there. And I know, a lot of folks are waiting on that model to finish up so we can wrap up a few other planning projects that we're working on, but we're almost there. I mean, once we get that, we'll be able to kind of check some of these final boxes on the MTP. So the major goals of the plan aren't changing. I think we talked about this when we first started this update process, but I guess you could say we're kind of dusting off the plan that we completed back in 2020. Basically we're going through we updated all of the data, kind of the fundamentals of who's living here and then what our projections are out into the future. Chapter 2, the first goal is 4 goals of the plan. First one being access to opportunity. The second goal, attracting and retaining talent, basically trying to make sure that our region is, I don't want to say it, I guess a nice place to live is the simplest way to say it.
Well, and more along the lines of attracting and retaining talent. That's been like an ongoing feature. Some of the demographic information that we have received has been some of the stagnation in population, right? So we projected a higher target of people living within the metro region. That target, when it actually came to the census, was way lower. And so that impacts the overall trend, right? We're still in an upward trend, however, not as high as before. And so this action of attracting and retaining talent is something we've been working on with the Greater Omaha Chamber and some of the work that they've been doing with the total mobility package, et cetera, et cetera. How do we retain and attain good quality jobs to attract this new generation of people into our region, right? How do we get people to come into this region? And I think that's a very interesting, nuanced way of looking at it. The way we're taking this is, how does transportation and that talent attraction work together?
Chapter 4 is economic growth throughout the region, basically focusing on some of a lot of it is looking at freight movement on the transportation system. We still intend to begin a regional freight study sometime soon-ish. I think we're looking at it'll probably kick into gear next year, calendar year 2026. We are planning on putting out, I guess, some more information about that pretty soon. And then just, making sure that we're able to transport all of these goods and everything throughout the region efficiently, but also safely. And then the chapter also goes into the other economic impacts of decisions made on the transportation system. And then finally, the fourth goal, which is chapter 5, stewardship of the transportation system, where we focus on basically evaluating the existing condition and kind of look at the long-term costs of maintaining the stuff that we already have. This would include both automotive as well as transit assets throughout the region and everything that kind of goes along with it. So this is kind of where we are. We have just about wrapped up model finalization. And then today we have the draft MTP. This will ultimately go to our board next week and then be released for a public comment period that will go through September 23rd. Actually, I think we're pushing that one more day. It'll be September 24th is what that public comment period will go through. And then ultimately approval of the MTP on September 25th. And then we'll have to do a little bit of tip cleanup work when I do the first amendment to the 2026 tip to kind of bring it in line with some of the changes in the MTP.
Court, that public comment period, would that be emailed out to people? Is it posted online? How do you plan? I mean, what avenues are you going to get that?
So we'll have the kind of basic newspaper push, and then they'll also we'll push it out on social media, and we'll send out a link to everybody who's on kind of some of our mailing lists, such as TTAC and our other committees. And then there'll also be a public open house here. I forget what the date was. It's in September, but I'll make sure that goes out to everybody as well, so that y'all know what we're doing. Though I will say that most of the public involvement that we've done has been over the last 5 years and all the planning efforts that we've undertaken. I want to say we had something like, we interacted with something like 20,000 people over the last 5 years, trying to, in all the different efforts that we've undertaken. So it's been fairly substantial. But I think that's it. Any questions right now about the MTP or where we're going with that from here?
So are you looking for an approval from this committee today to open the public comment period?
A recommendation to our board to open the public comment period.
Okay. Are there any questions? I kind of interrupted the court on that part. Any questions from the committee? Okay. Is there a motion to open this document for the public comment period?
So moved.
A motion, second, and a second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposition, same sign. All right, court, I have your approval. Okay, that wraps up our action items today. This is the portion of our program where we're going to move into public comment. If there's anyone in the room or online that would like to make a comment, ask a question, this is your opportunity to do so. Okay, not hearing any takers on that. Item 2 is the quarterly regional federal aid summary by Carlos.
I'm deferring to him. Quick on this one.
You got it.
Of course, yeah.
Yeah, all right, so I'll go through each of the 3 programs that we MAPA is in charge of fiscally constraining. What you see on here is basically where we're sitting at the end of Q3, which ended in June, at the end of June, and we're currently in the middle of Q4, almost at the end of federal fiscal 2025. On the Iowa side, STBG, we've got about $16.5 million balance. I know that, well, I believe. No, because West Graham is already, that's already going. I think that's it. That's all that'll hit this year on the Iowa side, as far as I'm aware. And then we've got a few projects that that'll start hitting that balance over the next couple of years with the culvert projects wrapped up earlier this year. And then on the Nebraska side, as you can see, there's a large negative in the obligation, which means we got a significant amount of money back from some projects that were done over the last few years. So we actually have an increase to our balance of about $4.4 million. We'll kind of evaluate what that means as we look to start opening up the 2026 program, because that'll go live in October. And that will kind of all be part of that first amendment. We'll be considering, do we have some additional funding to play with? Because we kind of want to see what happens at the end of the fiscal year before we start making any decisions. But right now, yeah, it looks like we did fairly well on some of those obligations.
Can you clarify, you said got money back, as in projects are not proceeding, describe where the.
So effectively, some projects that have been completed, like basically NDOT obligated an amount that we had programmed for construction. They didn't actually end up spending that total amount, and so the money comes back to our SDBG pool.
So projects came in under budget by the end of construction.
Yep, correct. Yep, that's for projects coming in under budget.
Kudos to whoever did that.
We had an incredible year of bidding last year. Virtually every project came in under budget. It was fantastic.
Yep, and I think that's what we're seeing here is, some of that funding came back. And then in the table below, these are projects that are currently programmed in the first year of the TIP, phases that were programmed to be implemented this year before the end of September. Anything that is in yellow those are things where we have basically the federal aid process has been initiated, either with submitting a 530 form on the Nebraska side, or work has started development in TPMS on the Iowa side. Things that are in red are things where we have not yet received a 530 form, or things haven't been programmed in TPMS, or they haven't really been started. And then anything that's green, those are funds that have been obligated. I have confirmation from the states that those are moving forward. So we're kind of mixed on STBG as to whether we have things that are moving forward. So I want to say. So basically, since we're getting near the end of the federal fiscal year, I'm probably going to reach out to anybody who's sitting here in red or yellow and ask you about kind of what we think is going to happen with those projects, if we think some of those funds are going to be obligated. For some of these, I know the answer already, and we're just going to have to move them into the 26 program. But that's kind of where we sit with any of these. And if anybody has questions about them, I'd be happy to.
Court, is that River Road Drive, is that the project that the meeting was on yesterday, and tying that to the trail?
So that'll shift into the next federal fiscal year, because that we still have to check some boxes on how that and the Western Douglas County Trail project will be merged together, because it does seem like those will end up merging.
Sounds that way, and I'm a little concerned that Waterloo wasn't represented, so I'm gonna reach out to their administrator and make sure he's aware. That looks like they're gonna be the ones kind of running that, so that they don't have surprises. Okay, thank you.
Yep. Then onto the TAP side of things, kind of a similar situation in Nebraska. We had some projects come back that Didn't end up using all the funding that was initially obligated, so we got a little bit of a boost to our balance there. Nothing moving on the Iowa side in TAP, but again, there are a couple of projects that are lined up for the next couple of years that should start hitting that balance. Same situation on the table. We've got 2 projects where the federal aid stuff has been initiated, but not quite obligated yet. And then funding for the Thompson Creek Trail for some of their preliminary stuff that has been obligated. And then I am still waiting on a couple of 530s for a couple of NRD projects. And then on the CRP side, fairly simple. We haven't obligated anything this year, but we did not have any prior year balance on the CRP because we did a swap with NDOT for some CMAQ money and then that funding has gone to the projects that were initially being funded with CRP. So the final balance on the Nebraska side is basically just the apportionment amount. And then on the Iowa side, again, we did just select a few projects for funding that will be in the 2026 program, so that we should start spending that down at least a little bit over the next couple of years.
So, Omaha, Center Street is in yellow, status update?
It's on the DR 530s on the September 9th council agenda.
Great, glad to hear it. Thanks.
I don't know if you have a sense of whether that will that actually get obligated before the end of the federal fiscal year? It seems like, yeah, I don't know that any of
The program agreement is what obligates it.
Right.
And so, I guess it depends on how quickly NDOT signs it.
Yeah. And so,
But it's close.
right, I know, it's right, yeah, it's right on the line.
I'm gonna say yes.
I'm gonna put it on my list just in case, because if we need to move in 26, it's not that hard to do. But yeah, I'll keep an eye on it. I kind of figured that I knew that things were moving, but
Yeah.
yeah.
I'll get it right back to him as soon as we.
Sure. Yeah, and then on the Bennington Big Patio Trail, we have the 530's been turned in earlier this year, but I don't know, as far as I'm aware, the funding for preliminary phase has not been obligated yet. But I'm just gonna have to follow up with Bennington and NDOT to see where the program agreement sits with that. But that's it, that's what I have. Quarterly update. We'll be back in a few months with end of fiscal year wrap up.
Okay, item number 3 is Eric Miller, city, relating to streetcar development and operations.
Thanks. So yeah, I'm Eric Miller, Streetcar Operations Manager. Asked to give an update. So I've got a kind of a slew of different topics to cover. Thought I would give an overall update on our project, how things are going, and what we got planned. And then I focused on a couple of things that Court mentioned that y'all might be interested in. And then the last part of the there we go. And so then the last part, I'll walk you through quickly our infrastructure resiliency, which is similar to an update that I gave to the Heartland 2050 Infrastructure Committee. So hopefully many of you know our kind of route map that we've got for the starter line. It's roughly 3 miles end to end. Go from roughly 40th Street in Blackstone, and then out to the riverfront near 8th and Capitol, which is also our vehicle maintenance facility is being built right now. If you're ever down there, kind of south of the Luminarium by that park with the big slides, you can look to the west and see it going under construction there. And one thing I want to point out with this map, the different colors of blue show where we've got on and off wire. So our streetcars take advantage of this new technology, or fairly new to the US anyway, in the last 10 years, where now for portions of the system will run off wire and use onboard energy storage with batteries on our vehicles. So we're the first in the US to do this with CAF vehicles. We've had other systems like Oklahoma City, Dallas that use a different kind of vehicle. So I'm trying to remember which is which. So the light blue is the on wire, and then the dark blue is the off wire. And so then we'll have like chargers at the stops on each end. So just want to point that out. And project timeline is maybe you're probably familiar with this as well. So yeah, we've been planning this since the late nineties, now we're here. So we're doing a lot of utility work, and I'll go through a little bit of that. Mainline construction, like actual track laying, will start early next year. We'll go into testing and system integration in 2027 and planning opening in mid 2028. So here's a shot of the vehicle maintenance facility. Just took this last Saturday, so gives you an idea of what you can see if you're out there getting the foundation going right now. Samson is the lead contractor for this one. And so you may know they're based out of Lincoln, and fun fact, they built the Kawasaki plant out there, so they should know how to do rail facilities. And this is an overview site plan of it. This will hold our fleet of 6 streetcar vehicles that we need for peak operations. That includes 4 vehicles that will be running all the time, and then we'll have 2 spares in case we need them. And then I'm also hoping that we can like put one of those in service for special events to provide a little extra service. But yeah, this is what it'll look like. This was designed by HDR. And here's another outside view of it, showing the potential vehicles. This is not the final color scheme, and I don't even think that's a CAF vehicle, so I don't really pay too much attention to that. So as far as utility work, we've kind of got this split into sections. So right now we're going through our west utilities, is what we call it. So this is just looking out at Blackstone. This is an area where we actually pulled out some old streetcar tracks. So we're gonna go down and replace a lot of the pipes and whatnot down there, get that done, so that with the goal of not having to do any work down here once we have the streetcar up and running. So this is going pretty well. We're basically done with utility work at Midtown Crossing, and then we've moved into Blackstone, which will continue through the year. And then our east utilities is just starting now. This will go through next year. So this is looking at the 10th and Capitol area, which I don't know if any of you've been through there. It's a bit of a mess right now. So definitely pay attention if you're through here. I want to point out that every month, the first Wednesday of the month at June, we have a live webinar where we give more information about this. You can also, if you can't make that, you can watch it on our YouTube channel. Omaha Streetcar Authority's got a YouTube channel. And then we also give weekly construction updates. Those are usually emailed out on Thursday. You can contact Wendy Thompson at HTR if you want to be on any of that. So I want to talk about some of the design features that we've got. So this is a typical shelter that looks a lot like what's being used in Kansas City right now. So pretty minimalistic, because the whole point is you're not going to have to wait too long for the streetcar. But we'll have level boarding, and so easy access for passengers. And then the plan is 0 fares, so there's no need for a ticket vending machine, anything like that. Here's a basic site plan of a stop. This is one at 34th and Farnham. This gives us an opportunity to do some pedestrian and sidewalk improvements as well. So that'll be a feature you'll notice at each of these stations. And then here's an example of double track. So one thing you'll notice that, again, kind of referencing the map, is that west of Turner Boulevard, running on 2 tracks on either side of the street on Farnham, and then east of there it goes to basically one-way couplets on Farnham and Harney. So it'll be pretty intense through this area, Midtown Crossing to Blackstone. But this is roughly what it'll look like.
Are you restricting the left turn there on 34th Street?
Yeah.
So going southbound, you can't, or if you're going, I guess that's westbound. On Farnham, you can't turn left onto 34
Right.
anymore, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so this is kind of a tricky intersection, as you know, today. So it kind of limits some of that. So hopefully prevents some some problems there that we've got going on now. So one thing I want to talk about is stop spacing, and explain this a little bit, because the initial plan, as you might recall, from just a couple of years ago, was to have stops at 10th, 13th, 16th, 20th downtown. The goal with the streetcar is to have a stop, roughly every 4 blocks or so. Kind of, I always like to say, kind of similar to like a local bus. It's not rapid transit like light rail or BRT, so our stops are close together. So the initial goal was then, similar to the rest of the system, have it closer stops together downtown. We did run into an issue with the design. 16th Street, especially on Farnham, is a bit of a steep hill. So here's a photo I just took the other day. Looking up from there, you probably are familiar with this. So it's pretty much impossible to put a stop here. The problem is that once you stop the streetcar and have to get going again, it's a little tricky. And so just in terms of not wanting to slip on the rails. So that kind of took that out of question. Here's showing the design and the profile. So we like to ideally keep it at least under a 5% grade for a stop. And even lower than that would be better. So this is a little over, I think, 6% grade, so it's a little steep. Just wanted to point that out. So that's where we got into the issue of having to spread the stops out a little further downtown. So still having it close to kind of 19th, 20th Street area and 10th Street, but then they essentially merged the 13th, 16th stops at 14th, 15th. So this is the map that you see today. And then some other things to point out with mainline construction, I-480 bridges. This was taken a few weeks ago before we did our concrete deck pour. So this looks a little different today, but this is kind of a cool photo because if you look on the far left of the bridge, you can see the kind of the supports for the track there going in. So that's where the mainline track will go in on that bridge. And then I also want to point out, so we have sidewalks near the side of the bridge. This is Hardy Street. And then even better looking at Farnham Street, we've got the bikeway designed in there. So Farnham Street Bridge will probably start going in January. We're a little ahead of schedule on the bridges, so we're trying to figure out if we can start the Farnham Street early too, but doesn't look like it because we got some things to work out with OPPD. But the bridge reconstruction is going pretty well. So Harney will be back open soon, and then Farnham Street will be closed next year. So that'll make things a little bit tricky because right now we've got a nice one-way movement all the way westbound through Farnham. Of course, having this bridge closed will limit some of that, but that'll be back open again. So talking about infrastructure resiliency, there's a few key things that I want to point out. One is that with any rail project, we're really building for the long term. So all of our stuff lasts a really long time. So infrastructure, at least 25 years or more. These two photos are both taken during my time at RTD, where we started just before I left there. We started rebuilding the track through downtown that was built in the early 90s. So it takes a lot of wear and tear in downtown Denver with a lot of the trains looping through there. The other issues that you have with any kind of downtown urban rail system is just the elements getting into the track and not having really good drainage system in place, because ideally you want kind of that open ballast where it drains easily. Water gets away from the rails. So an issue that you have over time is getting rust, and that has to be replaced eventually. But here we should be good for a few decades, I'm hoping. And in line with that, with our utility work, we won't have to dig under the tracks and interrupt service. Also, our rail vehicles are built to last. You should see 40, 50 years of life. That'll include probably have to go through a midlife overhaul after 20, 25 years. Similar to our rail vehicles, our oldest ones in Denver that we all rebuilt. And that basically strips it down kind of to the frame, and then you can replace a lot of the components that start to wear out over time. And then also make some upgrades too, so that, because I'm sure even though our vehicles are really new technology today, in 20, 25 years, there might be some things that we want to do to them to make them better for our passengers. Also with resiliency, you want to look at sustainability, making multimodal improvements, and I think a lot of this goes into what are we going to design at our stations, having really good connections at each one. I already mentioned the pedestrian improvements we're trying to make, but also looking at other modes such as, where do we let bikes share locations, for example, and also looking at our transit connections to other routes. I think some of the connections that are going to be really huge are like 24th Street connecting to the Route 24. And one idea that I've come up with is establishing mobility hubs along the route. And so focusing on those areas where we're going to have some pretty big multimodal connections. So like I mentioned, 24th Street. I also think the east and west terminals will be huge, making connections to orbit and other routes, and just focusing on wayfinding and pedestrian access to those stops. So future proofing of the system is huge too. So how do you build a system that works for today, where we might not have as much ridership as we will further as we continue progress and making more multimodal connections? And also, how do you build a system that works as well for like kind of late morning, when you might not have as much ridership, to special events where you're gonna have more packed, and so that's always an issue. One of the things you'll notice with our main line is that we've got double track end to end, so that we won't have to have trains sharing a track, and so that'll open us up to being able to run trains more frequently for special events if we need to. And we've also got an extra turnaround track at Turner Boulevard, which will give us some flexibility there. And then our rail cars will have a lot of passenger capacity. You'll notice like this is the Kansas City cab car, which looks very similar to how ours are going to look. So you notice we've got a mixture of both seats and standing room passengers, so that we can kind of, hopefully again, be able to serve, kind of lower capacity, but also when we need to move a lot of people. And then the other thing with future proofing is you want to consider extensions to the future. So where are those going to work, and making sure that you're kind of building it so that you don't limit yourself to extensions. And we've got a couple on either end that we want to kind of fill out that were part of the original plan, that for various reasons we weren't able to go. But then also beyond that, north, south, east of Council Bluffs, and westward. So at that. Another big one with infrastructure resiliency is weather response, and being able to build a system that has some of this in mind. And so I think the big thing we got to look out for with weather is well, a couple of them flooding, and then also what do we do with snow and ice. And so you want to make sure that passengers are able to get around. The way that I look at this is we're building an all-weather mode, so I want it to keep running through all kinds of events so that we can get people where they need to go. And so the big part is with ice and snow, you want to keep running the trains, so you keep the rails clear, keep the overhead contact wire clear, and then make sure that your wastewater and drainage is designed to reduce flooding impacts.
Is there a device that goes on the streetcar as public work? Do you have to plow snow for a streetcar, or does it just move through it?
No, that's a good question. So if you have kind of gradual snowfall amount, if you keep them running, you shouldn't see a buildup at all. But especially if when we're not running for a few hours overnight, might have a big storm come in, then you will need to bring out the plows and have a plan for that in place. Yeah, so it definitely varies. And so that's where you have, again, want to make sure that you have a weather plan both for, what are we going to do if it keeps snowing overnight? Maybe we'll try to, get some extra operators to keep running trains through there, but then also have, contract with snow removal to make sure we got that in place.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I want to mention with infrastructure resiliency, what we're trying to do is not create redundancy in the system, which leads to inefficiency, but just being able to have kind of it's a system that'll be able to adapt to these things, and then also have the response plans in place. So yeah, that's all I've got right now.
How is that turning around on the west end of 42nd Street?
Yeah, so go back to the map. See how way back. Okay, so there's two different kinds of turnarounds that we've got in our system. Okay, one is on the far west end. What's planned right now is to have it. So the final stop will be basically right in front of Cone Flour Ice Cream, and it'll go down to one track at the stop. So you go from two tracks down to one. And then basically what we'll do is change what's called cab ends. So the operator will go from one end of the car to the other and turn back. On the east end, we'll have a loop, so the operator won't have to change ends. They'll just keep running through. And we might have a very short dwell time there at like 8th and Capitol or 10th and Capitol, but probably not too long. That'll be a good spot where we can change operators. It'll be right next to the Stevens facility. But pretty much we'll just keep rolling through there. And then on the west end will be a good spot for operator restroom break and that sort of thing. Yeah.
What is your route time? So if somebody left 39th and Farnham and did the route, how long would it take them to get back to 39th and Farnham?
Right, yeah, good question. So we're running, I think it's about just a little over half an hour for a round trip, because we need 4 cars for 10-minute frequencies. And if I remember correctly, the last operation simulation we did was having it just take a little over half an hour round trip. So and roughly 15 minutes.
Is there a stop where the train has to be cleared?
Yeah, so what we're intending to do, we don't have the plan completely in place for this yet. What I'm thinking is at that western end, we'll have that'll be the place where, you know, the operator, we might have a security person help us with this. Make sure everybody gets off the streetcar and that we can kind of clean it and inspect it then, and then go back after that point. But on the eastern loop, we'll let people ride all the way through.
Is there gonna be space for the vehicles on the vehicles for bicycles or?
Yep, yeah, so I go back to this Kansas City photo. That's another reason why, again, you don't wanna have like a ton of seats throughout the whole vehicle. So you want room for luggage, you want bikes. Obviously, we'll have some kind of policy, so you don't have people bring on, you know, humongous carts, things like that, but yeah, we'll have a opportunity to put, for people to bring their bikes up here. I can't remember if we have specific like bike hangers or not. I'll have to look into that, but yeah, there's space for it there. Yeah.
I think you're still working on policy around e-bikes and things
Yeah,
that have
right.
battery.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, shopping carts and, yeah. Yeah.
So I asked at the engineers club, same question, from the route to the north end, there's an extension up toward Cuming Street. Follow Cumming/Airport Drive, it points at the airport. Do you have any comments about long-term planning for additional connectivity to that location?
Yeah, so one of the things that, well, we've got a couple extension plans going on. Well, one is going on right now, another one we've got funding for, haven't come out with the RFP yet, but doing the Council Bluffs extension study right now. The PDL, it should say that's not necessarily given the streetcar, but it is looking at all transit modes. And then we got funding for a specific streetcar extension up north, but that does not include the airport. That's more looking at kind of the area between like 24th and 16th. So the airport, I think, wouldn't work too well for the streetcar because, again, like I mentioned, streetcar ideally you think of it as a local bus route, it stops every 4 blocks or so. It also takes advantage of a more dense urban environment, which we don't have along Emmett Drive. If you really wanted to do more than what we've got with the Route 106 through there, we want to probably look at BRT or light rail to suit that a little bit better.
Great, thanks.
Yep.
Are there any other questions on this topic?
You go to your mobility hub.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So the red circles where you're kind of proposing the mobility hubs.
Right. Yep.
Okay, so not right on top of these stops.
Right. Well, let's see the one. Okay, one circle. These must have.
Specifically looking at the 24th one, sort of.
Yeah. Well, that one and the one on these must have moved a little bit for me. So yeah, that should be like right on 24.
Okay.
Yeah, thanks for pointing that out. So, but yeah, so the intention is to, you know, make it easy for people to transfer among all different modes of those and stay focused. I mean, one nice thing about mobility hubs is, well, I mean, you can do a lot of infrastructure improvements, but for a transit project like this, I think it's more or less just paying attention, making some small improvements that wouldn't cost much, but will go a long ways in the long term capacity use.
Is that like your full definition of mobility hub, like 4 different modes interconnecting, or like this looks like more like 3, right? You're looking at light rail, bus, and bike share. So 3 being the standard across the board for what we call a mobility hub. Wondering. Sorry.
Yeah, no, that's a good question. I'd say on the west end, we'll definitely involve, you know, parking option there. And then obviously, you know, you want to look at in addition to e-bikes or scooters, whatever, yeah, sort of thing.
Are there any other questions?
Yeah, I'll hang around if you want to come up and talk to me in person about something else. I'd ask now.
Okay, then we're gonna move on to discussion item number 4. And that's the US DOT Safe Roads Initiative in Nebraska. And Jim Warner from MAPA is going to present that for us.
All right. Great, so thank you, everybody. I'm gonna talk about US DOT safe roads and thanks for saying Nebraska, Todd. We have expanded. So we'll go through the background real quick. The acronym Safe Roads, I will read it out to you there, really focuses on arterial roadways. Again, the guidance that we talked with you all about, our minor arterial system and our other principal arterials. So that excluded some of our freeways and expressways and uniquely things like Highway 370 and other roadways. But we're looking at safety and operations and really it cuts across the board. So it's not just projects, it's not just our traditional things that we're talking about here. We're talking about signage, we're talking about removing distractions and making sure that we're providing all users consistent guidance and guidelines. So Eric, what you talked about right there about mobility hubs definitely fits right in. And making sure we're using the right of way in an orderly manner. So I had asked all of you for projects, again, you put those in, and I appreciate all the input that we did receive. I won't belabor all these numbers, but I did want to highlight one additional one. Just taking a look at the information we had from our high priority network along these arterials, really close to 2/3 of our fatal and serious injuries do occur at intersections. So as you're thinking about improvements or ways that we manage these roadways, those intersections do kind of pop out. So the goals that USDOT provided to the governors and then through the state departments of transportation to us, we're really collecting those projects that can do these things. We interpreted the memo for that to be things that would be completed within the next fiscal year, so any project would be finished. And we got some real recent guidance as of Wednesday afternoon that changes the game. So what I'm going to show to you, and there's handouts on the table if you didn't grab one, I'd like to do a little homework exercise and make sure what I've captured is appropriate for your communities with this guidance. So we looked at addressed to mean the bottom one, just implementation. I've grabbed the plan and program from our TIP, from some other planning documents that all of you put forward on your websites, or just knowledge that we have as we work with all of you in planning studies and I've laid those out. I'd like the opportunity for you to say, Jim, you missed something, or Jim, I don't want that on the list. So we're gonna go through them really quickly. Just some quick guidance. The colors don't really stand out here, but the blue is that implement 1 through 7 were provided by Douglas County and the city of Omaha. I've taken the opportunity to grab number 8 there, Matt, for things that are coming up with the Second Ave to Bayless Park. And those are things that I think, given timeframes, could be implemented through FY 2026. And implementation doesn't necessarily mean pouring concrete, right? Or changing things. If there's signal changes you're looking to make, if there's just changes to ADA access in a region, the community you want to highlight and talk about, I'm happy to take all of those. You don't have to speak them right now, but I would ask if you can send me an email by early this afternoon, because I think my due date to NDOT in particular is still at the end of this. And I know that's not great, but I appreciate your stepping back. I will say one thing, having gone through the Safe Streets planning that we did, and looking at the high priority network and looking at the guidance that USDOT gave us, I think this is a chance to kind of pat ourselves on the back and say, hey, we're making great strides. We're either implementing projects where we can in the short term, or we're studying them. This didn't pop out. I've got a couple more on. You can't see on there, but 17 and 18 cover those corridors of Cuming Street, Northwest Radial and Military Ave, as well as Haynes Avenue. So those are current planning studies underway. I'll pause for a moment.
I would think the West Maple corridor study could be included on there as well.
Yeah, thank you.
When does that begin, or is it ongoing, the West Maple corridor?
It started.
Yes, okay. Somebody was asking me about it last week and I wasn't sure.
And the way I've tried to interpret it is, if it's programming that's in the TIP, or if it's locally funded, if it's something that you have money set aside to it by the end of October of next year, that would be sufficient. And for planning, I took that as that planning is ongoing through FY 2026, since plans just generally tend to slip a little bit, so I wouldn't want to cut something just if there's uncertainty in that planned production date.
Well, what about Harrison Street from 220? Should that be on there? I mean, that's in that time frame. It's when you think of the 222nd west.
Yes, could you provide me with details on that? I guess I'm not ultimately permitted.
It started earlier this week and it's gonna be done by next fall. It's just,
Okay.
it's a paving and
Just a page.
an intersection improvement. Yeah.
Okay. With that, that's in your 1 and 6 with kind of a description. What you're not seeing here is I'm pulling a paragraph or two to describe the project as well, so.
Okay, I'll send you some.
Okay, thank you. All right, so these are the segments. We'll shift really quickly to a couple folks that added. All right, so again, the first 3 were provided through the online tool. Thanks, Brian, for additional information on the first phase of the signal infrastructure. And I've pulled in basically the rest of them, seen that they're all programmed within the tip. No difference here. I guess if an intersection is included within a segment project, that's fine too, but any thoughts on improvements at these arterial intersections you'd like me to grab?
The previous list, the Midtown Medical Center and Firebreak connection, there was an additional pedestrian structure added to some of that description.
Okay.
And that should be in the DR fact. I'll take a part of description. I can
Okay.
give that to you if you did.
So that would be an intersection outside of the
They just got additional funding, so this
Okay.
mentions, multi-use Strobridge over Leavenworth Street, there's gonna be an additional or something for Saddle Creek as well.
Okay, okay. I'll look for that, but if you don't mind, could you
Yeah,
send me the same
I'll
thing?
yes.
Thank you. Yeah, no, that's great. Yeah, that does sound familiar. So yeah, and I will say, I'll apologize, the tools that we have to go quickly search for all these, it's not all in one place, so happy to take your input. And I guess happy to advertise too, that's definitely a goal of our trips project that Carlos talked about earlier, is just helping to put everything in one place as we're talking about as we plan and execute these projects. Okay, well, if you do think of something, as we close out, even if it's not by that early afternoon, so we give it to DOT, I do want to keep track of these, and this fits right in with our comprehensive safety action plan progress reporting as well. So happy to have this conversation with you here in the short term. Sorry for the short term nature of the request, and we'll look to make this more routine.
And if anyone would like to help us in trying to get an extension of 30 days, that's also offered, but the state has to lead on that request. The state must request to FHWA a 30-day extension. So if you would kindly, is it done?
I think through me, and we could get it to either Jared or to Travis if it's a request file. Yeah, the due date is September 1st, the date of the memo was July 1st, so that's their target.
I think the Creighton Bikeway project might also be a good.
Yeah, that's a great. Yeah, I looked at that and I tried to interpret whether or not that fits on the arterial, but I think it is worth talking about. Yep. Great. We email that to you. Okay. Yeah. Appreciate that. All right.
I can just send both 530s.
Okay. Great. Thanks, Kristen. Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you all very much. I appreciate that.
Okay. So, well, we have time for member agency updates. So Morris, would you like to start us off on who's out of the table for project updates? Okay.
All right, Highway 50 or 144th, from 370 to Elm done, complete. Dodge Street for Skyline to 168 is complete. And we had a Highway 92 and 275 culvert, which is completed. And 680 from 4th Street to Missouri River is completed. That was a night work. Another one that we just finished up was the I-680 high mast towers. There's at I-80 and L, 680 Pacific, 684 to 680 133, and I-480 at 30th Street. We're done with that. And we got another smaller one ongoing, which is 72nd and 680, Highway 75 or 48th Street. And 680 and then down to 30th Street interchange. That's ongoing. Highway 6, Dodge Street, 182nd. We're done pretty much with that. This thing has been striping and signed. All lanes are open. There might be just some minor work on the side. That we're more or less done there. What else we got here? Highway 75 from Highway 34 to Q Street. It's night work. There's sawing and sealing joints. And then there'll be a concrete sealer after that. Highway 275 from Nebraska 64 to Dodge Street. They're proceeding with the cross stitching. They're done with the pavement repairs. The milling is done. They've overlaid the top. They've overlaid the shoulders. And now they're in the joint and crack sealing, and they're working on the high friction surface at the Elkhorn Viaduct. I-480 Missouri River Bridge. We'll be working there until October 26th. They're doing the deck repairs, bridge painting. I think they may be done with the painting this year. They're right in the middle third of the bridge over the river right now. Same thing that connected to that was 480 12th Street to the river bridge. Same thing, bridge painting and deck repairs. I-80 westbound Q to Giles. We're widening the bridge over the Patio Creek to set the girders. They're decking. Unfortunately, you probably ought to know that westbound traffic is reduced to 2 lanes. They've overlaid the west half of the northbound bridge, so we still got to finish that up. And then connected with that, I-80 westbound off ramp to 50. They poured the new outside westbound lanes from the bridge over Giles to the 144th Street and exit. And they completed that tie and they just haven't put traffic on it yet. Once again, westbound traffic reduced to 2 lanes. We've got the inside eastbound and westbound deck repairs and approaches completed. We shifted traffic. Now we're working on that was the inside. We're working on the outside now. And let's see, Dodge Street, 156th to 132nd. We're doing all the interchanges, 56th, 144th, and 132nd. We're doing approach replacements and deck repairs. And one other one that just got started, Dodge Street, 161st to 127th, pavement repair, mill overlay. They're night work, so they've got one shoulder and one lane, lane one, that's inside shoulder, inside lane, and for the length of the project, that's done. I think they started working back west. So that'll be a while before we're done there. And that's it.
Since last TTAC, 72nd and L has been awarded to TAB. Came under estimate, at least from what our pre-letting estimate was. Hoping to kick that off sometime this season yet, with us dropping the bridge yet next spring. Guess we'll see how the coordination goes with your guys' project carrying over. Any delays, but public might not be too happy with both of us being there at the same time.
Are you guys gonna try to coordinate if we need 72nd and L done, then we can tear up the piece between the two?
Yeah.
Try to make it like a 10-year run.
Exactly, yeah.
We'll do that.
We're gonna push it out the interstate since it's first time.
Yes. I guess in addition to that, we're working with the city of Omaha on 2 projects. One, so both alternative delivery projects, one being I-80 reconstruction. We're using that as a design build project. And the other one is Saddle Creek Bridge on Dodge Street. That'll be a CMGC contract.
Eamon, is that, are they going to refurbish that bridge, replace that bridge?
It is
I had a gentleman.
It is currently up in the air.
Well, he is.
think that is it. I had a gentleman reach out to me earlier this week. I was quite interested in, so I'm sorry.
It is planned as a bridge replacement project. We are interested in pursuing concepts that may change the geometry and or configuration of that area as well, whatever the city is receptive to and what we can fund.
But it works so well today.
Doesn't do a bird bath every other storm.
Okay, thank you.
But no, that's it. At its core, it is a bridge replacement project. What the ultimate configuration is remains to be seen.
No metro updates.
Nothing is wrong.
Just want to take the time, introduce our newest staff member, Alex. He used to work for the city of Omaha, was in a private sector area for a little bit, but now has joined us. He replaces Elle, who used to be on this committee helping court out. Our views and goals are we're taking on a lot more challenges, and so we'd like to welcome Alex to our team. Yay! I think Alex gonna do the other two updates for look aheads for MAPA. But obviously we are super excited about trips. Our coordination efforts with NDOT continue strong. We're doing additional work with NDOT and coordinating on regionally significant interchange, MTIS, and local projects. So I think that's gonna be some of the things that we're looking forward to in the coming year. Additional coordination work, especially in Sarpy County as they go through their planning work and their major projects. And additional work understanding how pavement conditions done, what bridge conditions look at and how they're done, obtaining, receiving that data and helping everyone in the region be plenty aware of that. I think the MTP process taught us quite a bit this year about what we're looking at. One of the things that was striking of all the bridges, and Jim, correct me if I'm wrong, many of the bridges that were identified as red, I think we only had 2 or 3 that were not in great condition, I guess. Many of those bridges were not identified in our long range list of projects. And so that's an area of concern, an area where we're going to do additional work with our local communities and help get those bridges programmed so that we can receive BID dollars for these big bridge replacements. Bridges are really expensive, so those are the ones we're kind of trying to tackle and understand better so that we can make the best use of our local funds and make the most use of these discretionary opportunities. I think that's it for MAPA.
Yeah, let me scoot ahead a little bit here, make sure that y'all are aware of some events we've got going up, coming up soon, with MAPA. So they're doing a, regional economic development summit. We're, partnering with, Greater Omaha Chamber, and you're welcome to get your phone out and use the QR code right now, but I'll also send out these links, in an email post meeting, so you can find them there. So the Economic Development Summit coming up. We also have our annual meeting, Northern Lights in Fort Calhoun. That'll be on October 8th. Again, I'll send out links to this once we're done with the meeting. And then regarding that annual meeting, we are asking if anybody would like to submit kind of things that you're interested in. We're doing a survey. Specifically, the speaker will be talking about artificial intelligence. So if you have anything you'd like to, like him to, in particular, you'd like to cover, please let us know. We'll forward that on, and that gets included in his presentation. Let's see. I'm done.
Couple things from the NRD, the Beltline Trail Phase 3 at Military and Hamilton, ribbon cutting Thursday, September 25th. Thank you to the city of Omaha for your ongoing partnership and to MAPA for all the background work that you helped do. It's been about 9 years to get to this phase. There's more phases in the future, but this one has the park, the playgrounds, the bus stop, the new parking area. We're doing a street closure. Thank you, Metro, for being able to facilitate that, even though there is a bus route that is on Military Avenue. So street closure for the celebration from 4 to 7 p.m. that evening. Really looking forward to that. Follow up there, the Energy Board approved sale of surplus land to adjacent affordable housing development. So trail-oriented development continues along the Beltline Trail corridor, which was in the master plan, which we saw at multiple MAPA site visits in the past. And I am very glad to see that that is a strategy that's moving forward in our community. We also have the Girard Connection Trail on the north side of the Allegiant Hospital at 72nd and Sorensen. That one's much more hidden. You probably won't see it, but I was out there yesterday, and it will also be kind of shockingly interesting to people who are not familiar with what that rail corridor used to be and what it will become. Trail completion there expected in October, and that one leads into the underpass, which is flagged on MAPA's project. The next project with federal funding will assume this current project is existing. So we have been waiting to initiate that project so that we could reasonably say this trail is existing. And at this point, a majority of the largest work is done, so we can move on and legitimately say this trail exists. And lastly, I've had some ongoing discussions about micromobility, and perhaps other jurisdictions have as well. This is important because there are vehicles that are appropriate on trails, and there are vehicles that are not appropriate on trails. And the line between active mobility and cars is blurring a lot. So I get a lot of comments about, hey, we see gasoline powered ATVs, gasoline powered mini bikes out on the trails, and this is getting to be a more significant challenge. So I would welcome anybody who wants to engage in a discussion about how do we clarify where things should and should not be. Rules on trails are very straightforward. No motorized vehicles on trails. But if you buy a vehicle that is not allowed to be operated legally on the streets, it is very logical that you will take it onto the trail. And we have increasing numbers of trail users reporting specifically little gas-powered mini bikes out on the trails or very overpowered electric devices, telling other trail users, quote, this is an e-bike, it's fine. And that is not correct. So I think we need more clarity on where people should and should not be. And I look forward to additional discussions there. Even up to, I would like to talk with MAPA about whether a policy investigation for micromobility would be appropriate for our Heartland 2050 study. That's not planning in the same sense of planning for infrastructure, but would we be able to talk with someone who has policy expertise to help us clarify what vehicles are appropriate in what locations, because that is a special type of knowledge and work that we need. And I don't know another way to get that done, but I think that might be an opportunity for our Heartland 2050 mini grant for a regional micromobility policy investigation. Because we have people doing things that are not safe for other users, and we haven't had any extremely serious consequences yet. But we should expect that if this continues, and it has been accelerating dramatically over recent years, that there will be negative consequences. What can we do to avoid that and help keep everybody safe? So I'm glad to talk with anybody who has other thoughts about that, but it's something that we're hearing a lot more about these days. Thanks.
No updates.
No update.
La Vista, 72nd Street project, Harrison to Giles, it's panel replacement, storm sewer inlet replacement. That is completed. They are doing backfilling and matting on curbs today, so all lane restrictions should be removed by the end of the day.
I was gonna defer updates to Austin, but
Yes.
Next
He whispered to me, he said Christie's got all kinds of good stuff.
I guess I would just add to, Saddle Creek is still closed between Hamilton and the Peanut Roundabout, so it'll be interesting how it works with your North Central Street closure. Fun times over there. 48th Street, between Harrison and Q Street is still closed and it'll be continued to be closed through the winter. 205th and Cumberland is closed still, but making good progress on that. I'm thinking maybe October will be open again, so that'll be good.
Weather permitting.
Well, you
I'm
know,
gonna say that.
Brandon needs to move over to Saddle Creek, so they need to finish that one up, so. Those are all the updates I can get.
I'm gonna tongue in cheek, piggyback a little bit on what Eric said with regard to the trail users. I get a kick out of that we're promoting, and some of you may or may not have seen when I presented my 1 and 6 plan, the press jumped all over the roundabouts and the safety aspect of that, which I did intentionally. But since we've initiated Safe Streets for All at Vision Zero, we have also repealed the helmet law. And at the same presentation to our commissioners on my 1 and 6 year plan, there were 4 SIDs that got approved to use golf carts and other vehicles within the SIDs. So I don't know what all those rules are, or how old the users have to be. But I can't imagine a bunch of 12-year-olds in side-by-sides buzzing around the SIDs are going to help with our Safe Streets for All initiative. So I find it interesting that our lawmakers are not necessarily pulling in the same direction as our safety-minded planners and engineers. So I wanted to just throw that out for the group to at least consider, because we interact with lots of different groups, and sometimes you got an opportunity to share on a safety related note, because I think we're all interested in that. Project wise, our biggest project is Q Street. We have had extreme delays with a couple of large utilities that you would all recognize. Now they're all out there at once, and it is a cluster. We are going to need divine intervention to get that baby done this year. I don't expect it's going to happen. Right now, we're hoping to have one side of the street done so we can offer head-to-head traffic through the winter. I can't imagine we're gonna be done before winter, but we'll see. 168th Street, similar story with utilities up north of Ida. Finally moving, we have nesting bird issues and then we've had a couple of utility challenges, and then 168th and Ida is somewhat on track. We've had weather delays, but I think it'll be poured and functional and open before winter. Those are probably the major ones that are going on right now.
You mentioned roundabouts, so there was a recent news article about a modular roundabout that Steve Omaha's gonna be putting in at the Fort Worth site on 32nd Ave in Woolworth, and it's been very positive feedback from the neighborhood, so they've asked for more roundabouts in the neighborhood actually, so it's good stuff.
I had someone from the public reference that news story, and it was also tied to your recent news story about roundabouts. Talking about the modular roundabout, and whether we could put one out on 92 out by Two Rivers.
Oh, yeah, there was a roundabout proposed out there years ago. I'm sure you know the history, but it was.
I don't know the history too much of that. I mean, when I responded to a member of the public, I did reference that we did put one in Ashland. And a similar footprint is not feasible out in that area right now, but with the future expressway proposed out there, it may be a roundabout just by whatever concept.
It was proposed and there was a design, and the landowner knew the right senator, made the right phone calls. That was the end of that. So there's a little bit of history, not a modular, I mean, that this years ago, regular. Yeah. I don't wanna necessarily be known as the roundabout guy, but when I mentioned that at the 1 and 6 presentation, that's what got everybody going. All the commissioners want to talk about. So, are there any other updates? And all right, is there any additional business today anybody would like to talk about?
I had a question on the streetcar.
Yep.
What's the fare gonna be?
Right now, we're proposing 0 fare, so you wouldn't have to pay to get on.
That means free.
Now, who can get on? That's not what we're worried about. You think?
Nobody from the DOT.
So you need ID to get on, or do you think you have a problem in the winter and the summer that people will be living in there?
Oh, yeah, I mean, there's always gonna be that, so that's why we'll be coming up with a security policy to help with that.
That's what led me to my question about, is there a place where everybody has to get off? Because
Right, yeah.
that has been a problem in other places with extreme climates, which we qualify, that it's
Yeah.
become a homeless place where it's like, hey, I can just get on and ride the streetcar for 3 hours and be nice and warm and watch the world.
We'll have music.
Sorry about that, sure. Into that.
there any other additional business? All right, with that, I guess I would be looking for a motion to adjourn if that's anyone's desire. Motion,
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? There's donuts in the back. Take it one.
Take one with you, take a comment.